very smart man sometimes. I made some mistakes in the real world and in the video game world. So in this episode of the Party Chat, we're going to be airing out our dirty laundry and talk about the worst gaming mistakes. Oh boy, this is going to be a crazy one. First one I'm going to talk about is Pokemon Fire Red for the Game Boy Advance. This game I loved playing a lot back then when I was a kid. Gen 1 Pokemon are like a classic favorite, never gets old, I tell ya. Well, one time back then, I'd actually managed to collect all the Pokemon on that game. It was a very huge success for me back when I was a kid. So, one time, I called one of my old childhood friends in my neighborhood about it, and he said, "Oh, nice job, can you come over and show me? I want to see it." And I said, "Sure, no problem." So I put on my sweatshirt because it was very windy on that day, so I started walking towards my friend's house, and oh boy, here we go. When I was almost there, my childhood brain had the idea of taking the game out of my old Game Boy Advance game case thing so I could put it in my Game Boy Advance and have it ready ahead of time. Yeah, I was a really smart kid. And then, oh boy, that's when it happened. Right when I was about to put the game in my Game Boy Advance, a very strong gust of wind hit me, took me completely by surprise, and made me drop my Pokemon Fire Red game. I looked around and see the strong wind blowing it away from me, and I tried to get it back, but then, oh boy, the worst case scenario happened. The wind blew my game into those freaking drain things on the ground that leads into the sewer, and I was like, no. It really hit me hard there. All my hard work on getting every single Pokemon on that game literally down the drain. And then later on, I told my friend about what happened, and he patted me on the shoulder and said, "I'm so sorry that happened to you. That must have hurt." It really did hurt, especially since I couldn't prove that I caught every single Pokemon in that game back then. It was a terrible feeling. Even to this day, I can't prove that it ever happened. But it did. It totally happened. And I should have kept it in the case until I got to my friend's house. It was a terrible experience. I'll get all those Pokemon in Fire Red again one day. Just you wait. This next one is more focused on the card game. In the own card game Yu-Gi-Oh! I played this game a lot with my own neighborhood friends back then when I was a kid. For me back then, I was still kind of a beginner at it. I mean, I knew the rules pretty well. I mean, I knew the basics there. They're like no problem. But I didn't know much about how rare some of the cards were. I was all about the cool looking ones, and I kind of still am to this day. So one time, one of my friends gave me the 3 Egyptian god cards, and I was like, oh, cool. So a day or two later, I was chilling on the stairs in the front of my house with one of my other neighborhood friends, and I showed him the 3 Egyptian god cards I got, and he said, cool. Hey, want to trade them for Alpha, Beta, and Gamma the Magna Warrior? And I saw how cool they looked, especially since they were all holographic and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I was really dumb back then. So, I traded the God cards for the Magna Warriors, and shortly after that happened, my friend that gave me the God cards the other day was passing by on his bike, and my other friend that I traded the God cards to loudly got our friend's attention and said, "Hey man, look what I got now!" And my friend on his bike saw the God cards in his hand, and he had this look on his face that said, "What?" And he turned around on his bike and went back to his house. And I was like, what did I do? Yeah. Oh boy. That was probably my biggest mistake in Yu-Gi-Oh! My friend there back then didn't talk to me for like 2 weeks. This next one I remember very clearly back then because it was one of my most biggest gaming mistakes I can remember. Now, you guys know Super Smash Bros. Brawl, very fun game, one of the best Smash Bros. Games ever, let's be real here. So, back in 2008, the year when the game was released, me and my friends during the summer were talking about how fun the game is, and one of them mentioned how he had beaten the final story boss, Taboo, on Intense Mode, which is the hardest level in story mode. When I heard about that, in my head I was like, oh man, I gotta do that too. So, later on, when I got home, I decided to work on beating the story mode on Intense Mode because, well, the way most games usually work, is like if you want to get to a level on a certain difficulty, you have to play through the whole story on that same difficulty, which for some reason is how I assumed Smash Bros. Brawl worked back then, because, well, that's how all the other games usually worked back then. So I played through the entire story of Smash Bros. Brawl on Intense mode, and it was one of the most hardest things I've ever had to beat in a video game. I played on it for like lots of hours every day, even staying up late sometimes to do it. I was exhausted. I looked like one of those high school or college students that were studying for an insane test and haven't slept much, and it took me like over a week to get it done. And after all of that, after hours of fighting Tabuu, I finally managed to beat him. I felt so happy and accomplished. I felt very proud of myself. And a few days later, after I got some rest and, got my energy back after all that hard work, I went to hang out with my friends again, and I told them how I beat Tabuu on Intense mode, and they were like, nice, good job. And I told them, yeah, I had to play through the whole story on Intense mode to get there, but I got it. And then I noticed that my friends were giving me this confused look, and I was like, what? What is it? And one of my friends said, dude, you can just beat the story mode on easy and just set the last level with Tabuu on Intense, right? My eyes went wide when I heard that, and I was like, what? Now you tell me? Ugh. Yeah, that was definitely one of my worst gaming mistakes back then. It was just so brutal. On the bright side, years later, when I was watching one of Smotch Games' old videos, from one of their episodes of Why We're Single, apparently Lasercorn went through this same situation, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, thank God, I wasn't the only one that made that mistake. I felt much better after watching that. Yeah, well, I guess me and Lasercorn there have something in common now, so that's cool at least. Next one is definitely a gaming mistake that hit me pretty hard, and that is the Helios Scroll armor reward from being all 4 Halo campaign missions from the Master Chief Collection on Legendary. This one was so crazy and difficult playing through Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Legendary mode. My brain felt like it was on fire. It was so stressful, and it made me rage on some missions, but eventually I managed to beat them, and I got the achievement for it, which was nice. Then when I went on Halo 5 Guardians, I got the armor, and I felt proud for all my hard work on getting it. And then sometime later, 343 Industries announced that they're adding the Helios Scroll armor and 2 different versions of it in Halo 5 for everyone to get. And I was so pissed off about it because I just went through all those difficult Halo missions for fucking nothing. I mean, sure, I got the achievement, which is cool, but I only played it for the armor, so my accomplishment there just turned into a huge gaming mistake. Still hits me, even to this day. Just crazy, huge gaming mistakes. Oh yeah.